Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Do you have a lot of friends? Our next guest has one in every state and then some. She spent 2023 touring the country, talking to women about friendship as part of her 50 States project. We welcome the author of The 50-50 Friendship Flow, life coach Shari, Leid. It's great to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, it's so great to be in Portland. It's been a little while since I've been down here.
Oh, good. We're glad to have you. What inspired you to take this crazy journey across the 50 states?
Well, I've never traveled the U.S., and so on a personal note, I wanted to travel, travel to all states, and wondered what would make it meaningful. And for me, like I think a lot of people, the people make places meaningful. So I decided to go to each state and meet basically a stranger, a person I didn't know or had had very little contact with in the last maybe 35 years.
Sure, that's really brave. How did you connect with someone in each individual state?
Well, I received 27 on my own, so there were people like, for instance, Indiana. The woman has been designing my website for maybe 3 years.
Oh, that's so awesome.
We never met in person.
Yeah.
And so different people like that had contact in that sort of way. Then I reached out to friends on social media with a list of states, and they gave me their cousins, their coworkers, their friends. And then I had about 13 states left. And I took to the internet and started looking for, I actually looked for women business owners because I figured, okay, at least that means they have to stay in that state for a while.
There you go. And something in common, too, that you're both building something, however different it might be.
Yes.
So tell me what you learned a little bit about female friendship and why it's so important to us.
Yeah, well, for the first thing is even planning this project. I was surprised that people were so open, especially strangers that didn't know me from anyone else. And it told me that, one, people are open to friendships and they're open to sitting down with you. And I also learned that I can nourish these friendships, even those that I just spent maybe 2 hours with or so. These are women that I constantly text with. In fact, we have a group Zoom meeting this coming Monday to celebrate, February, where we talk about Galentine's Day and friendships. And so that's coming up.
That's so wonderful. I think we have a few photos to share of some of your most memorable moments. I think a friend from California up here that we can share. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Sure. She actually was the voice actress on my books, and I had never met her in person.
That's so cool.
I reached out to her. And she runs a studio teaching music, and she suggested a voice lesson.
Oh, what a great idea.
And I was a self-confessed like tone deaf person. When I was little, like 4 years old, I sang really loud in this big production, and I got teased for being off key. Oh my gosh,
core memory, right?
And so I never sang out loud since that point. I even lip-synced Happy Birthday to my kids. And so I go into her studio, and she has these songs laid out, and I told her, Hannah, I just want to learn Happy Birthday.
Oh.
And so she taught me Happy Birthday that day, and I've sung it out loud, basically on key ever since. So that has been life-changing, and I almost want to cry every time I sing, like in a restaurant to a friend. And I started out to pick the key. She taught me that.
There you go. That's a good place to start.
But really, it's just life-changing to even be able to give that gift, and she gave that gift to me.
And it's something so simple, but like you said, you think of her now every time you hear Happy Birthday, which is at least a couple times a month, depending on what you're up to.
Yes.
How about your friend from Connecticut? Was her name Katie?
Yeah, Kate. So I didn't know her at all either. That was a friend referral, and she spent her husband, when I went there, her husband had just been put on hospice.
Oh, wow.
And so, but she carved out time. She felt it was important to meet with me, so we just had 2 hours together. We sat down at a park, walked about life changes. And a few months later, I was going into actually an interview in Iowa, just had parked, received a text from her, and she shared that her husband had passed.
Oh my goodness.
But she also shared that because I had met her when I did, I was part of her journey through that.
Yeah.
And so it just told me that even these little meetings at different times, not to take any of them for granted, and just that small time, it was a significant point in both of our lives.
And it was a stressful time for her, but you probably were a little brief moment of respite where she could have somebody coming in fresh who wasn't connected to her situation.
Yes.
and just maybe relax for a couple of minutes.
Yes, and she talked about her friendships, how they were sustaining her, and she had
Yeah.
these weekly calls with her college friends that she would just laugh with for, you know, an hour actually on Zoom because they're all over the country.
That's so great.
And, you know, that's another thing about friendship that just reminded me, yes, we need these friends.
You really feel it. Sometimes you don't really recognize how important those connections are, but when you get to reconnect and you just feel that positive energy wash over you, you realize, I needed that.
Oh yeah. There's especially female friendships. I have to tell you, under stress, there's a theory called tend and befriend, where you know it's a stress response where we tend to our young and we befriend other women maybe for support.
Beautiful. It was great to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great project. Love talking about that with you. We will have more information on our website at katu.com, and we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.